Soap caps are one of the most useful techniques for corrective hair coloring services, especially if you need to lighten colored hair just a tiny bit. They're easy to apply, they process quickly, and when applied correctly, they're not damaging. I'm Laura, I'm a hairstylist, and throughout this video, I'm going to explain what a soap cap is, all the different uses for them, and I'm going to do a demonstration where I perform one on all of these hair swatches to pull these old dingy toners out. Now, since I went to cosmetology school all the way back in 2007, soap cap is the technical term that I use for this method. However, there are many different terms that you can use that all refer to the same technique. Some other common names are bleach bath, bleach wash, or shampoo cap. But at the end of the day, they all mean the exact same thing. All right, so let's first talk about what is a soap cap. Now, you may have heard in the past that color doesn't lift hair color. This is what makes permanent color permanent. And if you do want to go lighter, bleach will need to be used. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to perform a 4-hour corrective color service that's going to cost you an arm and a leg and be extremely damaging to your hair just to lighten your hair a shade or two. And this is exactly where a soap cap comes in. So a soap cap is a mixture between hair bleach, developer, and shampoo. This creates a diluted bleach mix that distributes and emulsifies across all of your hair. So this technique is fantastic when you need to just bump the color up a little bit. All right, now we're gonna talk about all the different uses for a soap cap. If you prefer, go ahead and click on the chapters of this video and find the situation that works best for you. All right, so number one is if your toner takes too dark, ashy, or intense. So if you've just toned blonde hair or highlights and it's just a little bit too dark, dull, or dingy, or if you did a vivid color and it's just too bright or intense, you can use a soap cap to pull some or all of this color out. Now, it's not uncommon for toners to sometimes look a little drab or really suck the color up if the hair was either overly porous or if you didn't add any or enough warmth into your toner formula. This is also common if you lightened your hair too much before putting your vivid color on. Not all vivid colors require getting to a platinum blonde. Some actually need a little bit of warmth in the hair just for the color to take accurately. So a soap cap will just pull some of these color molecules out of the hair and start the fading process. Now, depending on how long you leave it on for, you can either pull it slightly out or pull it all the way out to remove it completely. But we'll talk about process times later on during the demonstration. All right, number two is to lighten permanent color a level or two. Now, if you've just gone darker with your color and it's just a little bit too dark, then you can use a soap cap to lighten it just a bit. Now, just keep in mind that because the bleach is diluted, it's not going to give you significant lift. So if you're looking to go more than 2 levels lighter, then I wouldn't suggest doing a soap cap here. But if you're just wanting a little bit of a budge to get a little bit lighter and take the edge off, this is going to be a great technique. All right, number 3 is to remove banding. Now, if you don't know what banding is, it's characterized by visible lines or bands of color throughout your hair. And there are numerous reasons of why you can wind up with banding. Some of them including overlapping your color, not using a lower volume of developer on your scalp opposed to your mids and ends, using a color that's too dark on your scalp, or improper color application. And I've also actually seen banding after women give birth. Because of the overload of hormones, your natural color can actually be a bit darker when you're pregnant and then go back to being much lighter when you give birth. This can create a visible line in the hair and you can literally see where you had the baby. Now, performing a soap cap and focusing it right over those bands is really going to help to soften that line. This allows you to have a much more even canvas for your final color application, so you have an even and blended result. All right, number 4 is to prep the hair for a lighter or brighter color. Now, if you're wanting to switch things up, it's very smart to perform a soap cap prior to your main color application. This is going to help to remove some of those old color molecules, and it'll allow your new color to take much better, especially if it's a brighter color. Doing this before your color application is going to open that cuticle up a little bit and allow it to really suck up some of those new color molecules. Okay, number 5 is to remove purple shampoo buildup. Now, if you're a blonde and you religiously use purple shampoo, then you know that it can give your hair a little bit of a lavender or grayish tint to it. When you use it too frequently, it can actually darken the hair and make it appear a little bit more dull. So to fix this, a soap cap will pull that dinginess out and give you a fresh start. This is commonly done on the mids and ends of the hair when you go in to get a touch-up, either for an all-over blonde touch-up or refreshing your highlights. A lot of times those mids and ends have old buildup of purple shampoo on them. And in order for those mids and ends to match those new fresh highlights, you'll want to perform a soap cap just to pull that out and give you a clean canvas to apply your new toner on so that it all blends evenly. Otherwise, your fresh highlights at your root are going to be a lot brighter than the rest of your hair. Okay, number 6 is to use the soap cap as a pre-softener if you have coarse or very resistant hair. Now, if your hair is virgin, extremely healthy, coarse, or gray, then you may have found that you have a hard time getting color to actually take. Now, if your hair is extremely healthy, that means the outer layer or the cuticle is almost sealed shut. And in order for your hair to take the color, that cuticle has to open up wide so the color molecules can go in and penetrate to the cortex of your hair. So performing a soap cap prior to your color application is going to open up the cuticle so that you're preparing the hair to really absorb the color. Now, if you have gray hair, it might not necessarily be that your cuticle isn't opening up, but because your hair is lacking melanin, then it just doesn't have anything for the colored molecules to grab onto. But pre-softening with a soap cap is going to help that because the bleach from that soap cap is still going to go all the way to the cortex and kind of get things moving in there. All right, now number 7 is to remove direct dye, aka semi-permanent hair color. Now, I've made a video in the past on how to remove direct dye without using bleach, and I will link that video above. That being said, performing a soap cap with a diluted mix of bleach is gonna work a lot quicker. Now, a lot of times, this is actually the method that the manufacturers from these direct dye companies recommend you doing. All right, so I really quickly wanna talk about when you should not use a bleach wash. Is if you're looking to lighten virgin hair and you don't plan on coloring over it afterwards. Now, because this is roughly applied and it processes very quickly, you aren't applying this like precise highlights. It's roughly applied throughout all of your hair. So realistically, if you do this on virgin hair, it might look a little splotchy if you're not planning on coloring over it. It's meant to prep the hair for a new color application or lighten hair just a smidge that's been colored a little bit too dark. Now, that's not to say that you can't carefully apply this and have it come out great, but that's not really what this technique is intended for.
All right, so most stylists that I know don't actually measure out their formula before they mix it up, and we instead go for a desired consistency. Now, the thicker consistency that you have, the stronger the solution it's going to be. The more liquidy or watered down it is, the weaker it's going to be. So that's why I'm not actually measuring out my ingredients, but I will put some common mixing ratios on the screen just to be helpful for you. Now, you can use any bleach of your choosing, and I recommend using anything between 5 and 20 volume developer. The lower developer you use, the slower it's going to take, and the higher developer you use, the faster it's going to take. So me as a professional, I feel very confident using 20 volume developer, but if this is your first time doing this or you're doing it at home, then I recommend starting with 5 or 10 volume developer. And when it comes to the shampoo that you use, I recommend using a clarifying shampoo because this is going to help to pull any impurities and buildup from the hair. But realistically, you can use whatever shampoo you want. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start my stopwatch so that we can see exactly how long it takes from the moment I started applying the soap cap. And we can see here that my consistency is sort of like cake batter. That's normally the consistency I try to go for is cake batter-like consistency. Now, typically this service is applied at the shampoo bowl, but since I'm working with swatches today, I'm just doing it on a foil on a tabletop. I normally don't use a brush when I'm applying this on clients, and I really just use my fingers to rub it in there. But since I'm working on swatches, this is just going to be a little bit easier. You'll also typically want to apply this onto damp hair, and so I'm just going to give a couple squirts from my spray bottle here. Just keep in mind that the more wet the hair is, the more the product will be diluted, and the drier the hair is, the less the product is going to be diluted. Now, I typically do not ever walk away from a soap cap while it's processing, and I stay there the entire time, emulsifying and rubbing the product in with my fingers so that I can watch the color, because the color will literally begin to change before your eyes. So you want to make sure that you're watching the color, and as soon as it gets to your desired result, that is when you want to rinse it. Your process time can be as little as 1 minute all the way up to 30 minutes. So this is why it's very important to continuously watch the hair. If you can see here, we've already pulled a lot of the dinginess out of those swatches. And since there are so many different uses for a soap cap, your process time is going to be particular based on your exact situation. In my case, I'm looking to really just remove as much of this toner as I can. So it's going to be a little bit longer than if we were just wanting to lighten it a tiny bit. In this instance, you can see that the bluer swatches and the violet swatches are taking a lot longer to come out than some of the more neutral tone swatches, and this is not uncommon. Any color that is brighter, deeper, or just has a lot of pigment to it is going to take a little bit longer than softer or lighter colors. I also colored these swatches years ago, so this color has been on this hair for quite a long time, so it's understandable if it's stuck a little bit. All right, so we're at about 3 minutes, and we can see that the majority of the swatches, the toner has been removed, but I am going to continue for another 5 minutes or so just to pull out a little bit more of those blue and purple tones. All right, so at this point, we've gotten nearly all of the toner out, and we are right at 8 minutes. So once you've reached your desired tone, you're going to want to immediately rinse out the soap cap, shampoo it out just to make sure you're getting all traces of bleach out of the hair, and then follow it with a treatment. I recommend doing a moisturizing treatment just because the bleach can pull some moisture out of the cortex. So I always recommend doing some form of a treatment, whether it's a moisture treatment or you can also do an Olaplex bonding treatment. Whatever you choose, I do just recommend doing some form of a deep conditioner after performing your soap cap. So for a quick reminder, here is the before. Now we're going to dry the swatches, and we can see that they have returned to their natural state. All of that old dingy toner has been completely removed, and we can either leave them as they are or add a new toner as desired.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. Let me know in the comment section what questions you have on soap caps. And make sure you subscribe if you want to make every day a good hair day.